Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another YouTube video and welcome to the first video and the first day, my first day in the new office. This is very exciting. I've been paying for this place for 2.5 months and I've only just got in there, or I've only just got in here. So I'm super excited. I've got a minimum viable desk setup going here today. And I thought that, even with the horrendous and ugly overhead lights that we've got in here, that we would record the first YouTube video in the new space. And what I want to talk about today is the more intricate details of signing and agreeing to rent this space. What were some of the things that I learned? How did I go about the process? So if you are considering getting commercial space for either yourself or your business or whatever that might be, then hopefully this video can kind of give you a couple of things that I didn't know and I wished that I knew when I was kind of going through this. So let's dive straight into it. Let's not wait around here and chat shit. And the first thing that I want to talk about is a concept of leverage. Right? Ultimately, what I came to understand is that any negotiation, and I kind of knew this obviously from negotiating contracts and within sales and stuff like that, but this was very much a conversation about leverage. Essentially, whoever has the most leverage has more, let's say, more bargaining power within the contractual agreement and the stuff that you're asking for, right? And what that means is that ultimately there is a sliding chart of no leverage versus all the leverage, and essentially what you've got to do when you negotiate any contract is figure out at what point you sit and what point in this case, the landlord, or it may be for you, your client, right, sits kind of on this scale of leverage. Now, I did some research into this place after I looked around it. I knew that it had been on the market a couple of times in the past and nobody had taken a long-term, it had short-term rental agreements, but no long-term rental agreements. And when I was speaking with the estate agent as well, they basically told me that they had some interest in the space from different people, but just due to the nature of the location, they weren't picking up kind of very serious tenants who actually wanted to sign in long-term. Ultimately, I was in a position where I was looking for an office space. I was ready to move. I had the cash. I had the deposit. I wasn't moving out of an office. So I had no existing agreements that I had to stay for like 6 months or 12 months or whatever. I was ready to go, right? I suppose like if you were buying a house, you'd say I had no chain, right? There was no reason why I couldn't go there and then, which meant that I had the most leverage in the deal because the landlords just wanted to get this place rented. They wanted somebody in there. They wanted it to be recouping some kind of income, right? So that's just some context in terms of kind of the leverage just there. And the other thing that I want to mention before we get into the nitty gritty is that ChatGPT throughout this whole process was my best friend. It really, this is where I think that that the current state of ChatGPT is fantastic, because what it allowed me to do is basically just have a free legal consultant right throughout this process that would have cost me hundreds, if not thousands, with the stuff that kind of I went through with the software. It basically explained all of the details and all of that legal jargon in just plain English, right? Helped me to understand what certain terms were more risky or kind of red flags or stuff that I should be looking out for or stuff that I should be asking for compared to other, standard kind of tenancy agreements and stuff like that. But what it did is it guided me through the legal process step by step and ultimately helped me get what I wanted out of the contract, which is fantastic and more than I could ever ask for from a free piece of software. I do pay for it now, but at the time it was free and it still allowed me to do this. So with that being said, what were those things that I asked for? The first thing, and I didn't even know this is a thing, right? But the first thing is a thing called a break clause. So essentially what you do is you agree to a term. And in this specific scenario, I agreed to this rent for a term of 3 years, right? A long time. Now, what a break clause is essentially allows you to break the agreement after a certain date or a certain period of time, which means that I signed in for 3 years, but I insisted that we had a break clause in there for 12 months with 3 months written notice. So basically what that means is that after 9 months, if I decide that I don't want to be in this space anymore, even though I've signed a 3-year deal and got stuff, and we'll come on to this in a second, and got stuff off of the back of the 3-year deal, I can choose to leave, which is, it gives you a ton of freedom as the tenant, right? But the thing that you have to consider about a break clause is that it's a two-way street. So what that means is that ultimately I could put a ton of time, effort, money, and really kind of enjoy and love using this space. And after 12 months, the landlord could kick me out, even though I'm contractually locked in for 3 years. The break clause essentially puts a little kind of, just a little pencil mark in there, which means that if anyone on either side wants to break the agreement, then they can. So it's a great thing to have as a tenant, but it also could be a challenging thing to get over if I've put all the time, effort, energy, attention into this space and then I have to leave, right? The second thing is that I managed to negotiate 1 month's free rent from the landlord. So basically, when I was initially looking around the place, and you will see this on the phase one kind of office move video that I post. I don't know when I'm going to post it, but I will post it. Basically, this place needed some love and a good bit of love, right? And basically what I said to the landlords is, look, if I am going to sign in for 3 years, which I want to do, I'm ready to do, I have the cash to do, everything's in place. Again, talking about leverage, right? You and I both know that the space in its current condition, whilst usable, is not ideal, right? And everything that I'm going to do and everything that I'm going to come in and fix within the space is ultimately going to benefit you in the long run, because it's going to make the office, it's going to make it more valuable. It's going to give it a better look, a better feel. You're going to be able to sell it more. The addressable market's going to be bigger, right? Everything that I come and do in this space is going to benefit you in the long run. So I think it's only fair that if I'm going to put the time, energy, effort into fixing this place for you, that you contribute financially to essentially to me fixing the space, right? And doing the work that's required. And they agreed to that, which is fantastic. So 1 month's free rent means that I've only paid for a month and a half's rent that I haven't used the space, right? If you want to think of it like that. But I've also paid a lot of money for for everything else that's gone in here. The third thing that I was really hot on is not needing to seek permission from the landlords for non-structural changes, right? I didn't want to have to speak and get permission from the landlord every time I wanted to do something within the office. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be knocking walls down. I'm not going to be, doing anything structural. But the point being is that, like, if I want to paint a wall or I want to put up a whiteboard or my, some nice artwork or something like that, I don't want to be contractually obliged to ring the landlord every single time and get permission from them every single time that I want to do something like that. The only condition that I had to kind of come back on with this is that if the landlord requests it upon me leaving the space, if they want me to return it back to the condition that it was when I first got the space, I do have to do that and I do have to pay to do that. However, I think it's worth mentioning that everything that I'm going to do in here is not going to make it worse. And the wording of the contract is in no worse condition, right? Now, obviously, that's a subjective term, but I'm never going to do anything that's going to make the building or make the space look bad, because I've got to work in here for the next 3 years, right? So that's kind of, by the by. The final thing, as we kind of begin to wrap this video up, the final thing that I think is really important, and ChatGPT actually recommended this to me. So again, couldn't sing its praises enough through this process. But we have suspended the rent if the space becomes unusable. So for any reason, if there's a flood, if there's a fire, if there's anything like mold, damp, anything, right, that basically makes this space not fit for purpose, then I don't want to be stuck paying rent for a space that I can't use, essentially. So what I was really keen on doing was essentially getting that clause in there, or getting that term or line item in there, which meant that, like I said, for any reason, if I can't use this space and through no fault of my own, right, if something happens, then I don't have to cover the rent, right? I'm not stuck paying for bills and financially obligated and committed to something that I can't actually get any value out of. So that pretty much wraps it up in terms of the 4 big things that I asked for. There are obviously other things that we changed within the contract, like certain wording to make it a bit more tenant friendly and stuff like that. But ultimately, those were kind of the big 4 that I wanted added into the contract, and I'm so glad that I did, because it just gives me such a deeper peace of mind when I'm entering into essentially a 3-year deal, right? A long-term deal. I don't know at what kind of financial position or responsibility or level that I'm going to be at in 3 years' time. It's obviously going to be better than what I'm at now, right? I know that for sure. But what this meant is that negotiating the contracts as I have within this and what I've just explained to you just gave me that peace of mind to go for the deal and know that ultimately this was a super tenant friendly contract that I signed. It gave the landlord somebody that's going to be in the space, using the space, and getting a lot of value out of it, which is good for them. And it gave me 4 things that are really good for me as well. So if this was helpful for you by any means, then please do hit like, comment, subscribe. If you've got any other questions about kind of your agreements or anything that you're kind of going through from a legal perspective as well, probably ask ChatGPT, not me, but I'm more than happy to come back to you in the comments. And of course, check out all the other videos on the channel if you are interested as well. But for now, that is me signing off. Take care.